Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Well, it is Wednesday, and we've had an interesting week. I'm a little bit uncertain about everything that's going on, but we have had some movement, and Wednesdays tends to be a day where people put capital to work. So let's come in and look at what the situation is, see what we can learn. You have some more rollovers, Bitcoin. Okay, so in the treasuries, yesterday we had this move up overnight because of job owning from the Japanese, the Bank of Japan, rather, and then pretty much all session they just fell. And by the way, as this was happening, as you can see here in the 2 and 10, and you'll see it very strongly over here in the 30 and 10, we are seeing steepening. So I'm not sure if this move down is some sort of reflection about the market thinks that the economy is going to continue to be good and that we're going to get like really higher interest rates, that the 10-year is headed to 5% or something like that. Although I have seen one alligator in Discord posted a good article for us pointing out that if we are going to be higher for longer and the economy doesn't like quote collapse, then the term premium probably needs to increase, and that probably does get the 10-year up to 5%. So that could be one of the factors. It could just be this Japanese yen move retracing. I'm not 100% sure where these flows are coming from. I don't understand this flow as well as I wish I did, okay? Now, over here in the S&P 500, I think that the picture is much more clear because we have a lot of information, including that we are in a stock buyback window, where they can't buy back their stocks right now. The CTAs have all flipped short. We have Gamma is now positive, which means that the market is more sensitive to large moves. And so you get days like yesterday where the equities just got slaughtered. And so I'm not 100% sure what to do with the treasuries here, but it seems to me that the trade has been short in the S&P 500 and continues to be short. When we come into oil yesterday taking a really strong rally back above 90, and now this morning we're at 92. And I should note that it seems like when the oil has been moving, the treasuries have been moving too. So there's been a bit of a possible correlation there that we need to keep an eye on. Yeah, Octavia says oil the beast. I was like, listen, I still think that this probably hangs around here for a while. But going from 89 to 92 in 24 hours is pretty wild in the given current situation. Okay, gold and silver, of course, getting just absolutely demolished as a result as well. Although I think that this one has less to do with like interest rates and everything as it does the dollar, which I'll show you here in a second. Copper continues to languish here as there's just no signs that China's coming back anytime soon. Okay, so you can see here when we come into the dollar, right? The dollar is touching 106 again. So gold and silver are just getting demolished by the strong dollar. Bitcoin is getting another pump here. I don't think Michael Saylor is done buying, is probably what that is. But I'm a little bit concerned about how it seems like one guy is propping up the whole cryptocurrency market. So that's basically the situation this morning. So minimize that. I guess I screwed up my workspace a little bit because I did some testing yesterday. Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. It just reminds me why like I don't spend a whole lot of time back testing anymore, because I read this one. There was an article I showed you guys yesterday about how there's like a lag between the futures and the options and the SPX. I'm a little bit skeptical about that there's actually as much lag as they claim, because they were talking about like several minutes, and their strategy was basically just like to take into account that lag. Or if you're trading a spread, like if you're trading the spread between the index and the future, then you don't want to trade like the current prices. You want to trade like the current price to the price in 3 minutes or whatever it's going to be. And that's how they modified their strategy. I wasn't too convinced by what they actually had. Oh, yes, we do have some news here this morning, don't we? Core durable goods, spot 4 versus spot 2. We did move down a little bit, and there was quite a bit of pulling. So, anyways, so I looked at that one and I was like, oh, that one's not so good. So then I started searching through that website. That website had a lot of really interesting studies, but their quality was not as high as I typically would like to see. So there was this other paper I found, and I found a strategy, and I back tested and kind of did like an optimization on like the most recent market behavior, and then kind of looked to see if it survived going back several years. And oh my gosh, when I looked at the last year of data, it was the results were so good. I was like, wow, there really is something to this. And then I started doing the back stuff, and it's just did not work at all. So, yep, I did all that. I tell you what, if all it took was 1 year of data, you want a strategy that's only, that's profitable on the last year of data, because I curve fit it too hard. I can sell you plenty of those if you want. Let's see here, Jiwi. Is there a way to set up OBS Studio or other recording software to only record my Jigsaw windows? I'd like to use my laptop for other things while my trades are being recorded. No. Well, so the real way to do this is to have multiple screens and only record the one screen and then do your other stuff on the other screen, right? And if you have a laptop, you can plug a monitor into it, or you can get a docking station like the one that I made a video about last week. That'll give you multiple monitors, and then you could do that. Now, OBS does allow you to record individual windows, but if you're like doing stuff over top of that, that's not going to work. So I think you can do what you want to do, just maybe not in the way that you want to do it. Yeah. Okay, by the way, good morning, Dewey Phoenix Trader. That's a name I don't recognize. Welcome. Jeremy, I haven't seen you in a while. And Octavius. Okay, so the treasuries have kind of stabilized. So here's the thing. By the way, coming back over to this chart, this is one other thing I got to cover in the charts, okay? So I come over here to this daily. I have this big line at 108. And I went back and did a little bit of looking, and this line was actually like support before the 2008 crash, actually. So like they fell below it, and then the 2008 crash happened. So I think that I put that line out there because somebody on CNBC or something like that made an argument as to why that was a critical long-term support level. And I can definitely see here in the chart that it is indeed acting as support, at least so far. So I'm not saying like buy on a dip below 108, but I am still kind of like a little bit hands off at the moment. Oh, let me bring it back over here. I'm a little bit hands off at the moment because I think that there's a possibility we could see long flows come through. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that. It looks like so far we've come back across this range pretty easily. Not a huge change in cumulative delta yet. Just some volatility from the news, essentially. All right. Looking through Twitter, so forth, seeing if there's any interesting stuff to talk about. Joseph Wang, I discussed the role of money in explaining the recent surge in inflation in the euro area. According to the quantity theory of money, there is a long-run one-to-one relationship between money growth and inflation. This is Isabel Schnabel from the ECB Executive Board. Interesting. Wait, so, and then it says 1 of 23. Is there really, should she really write a 23 post Twitter thread? Cross-sectional and time series evidence have for a long time provided strong support in favor of a stable long-run relationship between money and prices. Across countries, the long-run averages of inflation and excess money growth fall near the 45-degree line. However, this relationship was found to weaken substantially in an environment of low and stable inflation. The findings of a unit slope critically depended on the inclusion of high inflation episodes. Lower interest rates reduced the opportunity cost of money and velocity, driving a wedge between money growth and inflation. The fall in inflation volatility and the great moderation made identification more difficult. The move towards inflation targeting contributed to this. The instability in the empirical link led to money playing a smaller role for central banks, reinforced by the rise of new Keynesian models, but the correlation between money growth and inflation reappeared after the pandemic, putting the quantity theory to a new test. The strong expansion of asset purchases by the APP and PEPP, as well as target lending operations, had led to a sharp increase in base money, but this does not automatically translate into broad money growth, which depends on how economic agents respond to lower rates. The money multiplier, the ratio of broad money M3 to base money M0, had been broadly constant in the scarce liquidity regime before the global financial crisis, but after the start of QE, it fell measurably as M3 did not grow at the same pace as base money. Governments were consolidating public finances and banks were building up capital buffers as non-performing loans were elevated. As a result, for the period before the pandemic, asset purchases had a very limited effect on the lending behavior of banks. 13.5. They're at the high, but they're not quite coming through yet. The treasury still seems a little volatile. This is a long thread. I'm only at post 8. Can you pull up a DOM on the CL? I'd rather not. I'd rather not. Sure seems like it's moving. I did add cumulative delta to oil, but then I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I didn't look at this on oil, because it's so confusing. Okay. During the pandemic, however, fiscal deficits soared as governments responded to the crisis with large transfers to households and firms. Borrowing by firms and households rose sharply in contrast to before. Broad money was increasing at the same pace as the monetary base. While before broad money growth had been moderate and inflation subdued, M3 growth soared after the pandemic and inflation started to rise sharply little later. One explanation of rising inflation is adverse supply side shocks due to bottlenecks and higher energy prices. The question is why the pass-through of supply side shocks to final consumer prices was so strong. In the past, profit margins had been often a key shock absorber. However, in recent years, unit profits increased strongly despite the rise in firms' input costs. This can be explained by demand being exceptionally resilient in spite of two large economic shocks fueling the rise in inflation. Different from the sovereign debt crisis, it only took 3 months for real disposable income to recover during the pandemic. This was, to a large extent, the result of significant money creation fueled by the fiscal response to the crisis. This allowed households to maintain their real consumption at a level close to that seen before the pandemic. This is exactly what I've been saying the whole effing time. I don't think that this is anything new necessarily, but let's keep reading. Moreover, a significant share of the money that was created was saved, boosting household balance sheets. By the end of 2022, households had accumulated excess savings around $860 billion, or 10.6% of annual disposable income. Yeah, that was a lot. As a result, I still have mine. I took all of the money that Joe gave me. I still have it. As a result, households accumulated more wealth, also reflecting significant valuation gains as house prices increased measurably during the pandemic. Even households at the bottom of the wealth distribution managed to significantly deleverage between 2017 and 2021. This explanation is consistent with model-based decompositions of inflation, showing that demand factors played a significant role. Moreover, price changes were to a large extent driven by common factors. Money velocity also recovered gradually after the pandemic. The unprecedented rise in inflation necessitated a sharp tightening of monetary policy, which is critical for a timely return to price stability. The ECB raised the deposit rate by 4.5 percentage points while also reducing its balance sheet. Since the rise in interest rates, money growth has slowed down sharply and has turned negative on an annual basis. In July, lending to firms and households has essentially stalled. However, money growth may currently not be a reliable indicator of economic activity. Monetary developments reflect the rebalancing of portfolios in light of higher opportunity costs of holding liquid assets. The sharp rise in interest rates has induced households and firms to shift from overnight deposits to time deposits or other financial institutions. Okay, my first takeaway is that the effects of asset purchases depend on the state of the economy. On its own, quantitative easing is not inflationary. It only becomes inflationary if economic actors respond to low interest rates, thereby boosting money growth, economic activity, and inflation. Yes. Hence why during the QE2 era, because it wasn't going down to the majority of people, and so it did not boost money growth. Putin is speaking right now. Sounds like he's talking about oil. And oil is coming back a little bit here. Came back about 30 cents. Man, that is a volatile instrument right now. Okay. Second, excessive money growth can entrench adverse cost push shocks and can signal risks to price stability. This is especially important if adverse supply side shocks threaten to drive inflation away from central banks' targets more frequently in the future. All in all, while a distinct monetary pillar is no longer essential to conduct monetary policy, as confirmed in our 2021 Monetary Policy Strategy Review, money deserves a firm place in central bankers' analysis. Please read the full speech for details. Love it. That was a good post. We'll add her to our list. I didn't know that there was anybody from a central bank that was willing to post that big of a thing on Twitter. Oh, dude, Jim, I so agree. I like to poke Jim Iorio Like yesterday, he was talking about the Epstein thing. He was like, how come nobody's? And I was like, well, there was one person, and she identified a couple of people, but then she said, oh, I was mistaken about this one, about Dershowitz and everything. And I was just like, well, you kind of have to have a victim, and you have to be able to prove that their claim is true. It's not so easy. So I was kind of poking at him, but here he's saying something that I think I just agree with so much. If you look at the automotive strike and decide I'm for labor or I'm for management without any real knowledge of the facts, you're just the kind of mentally lazy droid they're looking for to blindly push their ideology. Also, good morning. It's so right. So right. Joe Biden getting involved, like getting on the picket line, in my opinion, is so inappropriate. It is inappropriate for the president of the United States to insert himself in between the private negotiation between workers in a company. Like, I'm not like strictly anti-union. I think the idea of organized labor is generally speaking a good one that has kind of been done poorly and run amok. Because, like, why is it that you're allowed to have you're not allowed for a company to become a monopoly? You're not allowed for business to monopolize, but your labor is allowed to monopolize. You don't think that that's gonna lead to imbalances too if you allow labor to monopolize? It's problems. They have to negotiate things out and find a way for everybody to do well, for the workers to get paid more and the business to still succeed. And I don't know enough about the workings of the business to be able to say what that is. And Joe Biden, frankly, doesn't either. And you just taking one side it's inappropriate. They should negotiate it on their own, with experts in the matter. By the way, these treasuries, they've been hovering right here at 14 for a while. Kind of looks like an ascending triangle sort of formation. There is a relatively large order at 13.5, but so far they are just very reluctant to hit 14.5. If we were to break here, that would get us back to 4.5 though. So I don't know if a breach of the highs in this particular situation is really too significant. Good morning, DT, and good morning, Walter. I don't care about the gap fill, but that's cool that it did it. Oh, nice countdown before the price line. So I didn't think anybody was going to notice that. Well, I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but let me just bring it up again. They're not paying me to do this, okay? I just find it interesting. I find it interesting, but I don't think that I would pay for this, but there's a lot of people trading charts that would probably pay for this. So the reason I find it interesting is that I think this indicator package could become popular. So it's chart enhancer from AlgoTick. And one of the things that it does is it changes the price line and gives you a countdown. Another thing that it does is if I right click on the chart, it does a measuring tool. So I can measure how big moves were and stuff really easily. See that? That's super cool. There's a couple of other things. It allows me to zoom in with the mouse scroll wheel. That's a big one that I think has driven a lot of people crazy. And it allows you to remove the copyright in the bottom corner of the screen. You see that over here? There's the Ninja Trader LLC, but up here it's the copyright isn't there. I think the indicator package is like $300. I feel like it's almost worth $300 just for that. I'm not 100% sure how they did that. If I come in and I'm just completely redrawing a chart, does it get rid of that? I don't know how they did that. Oh, like features like are natively available on other platforms for free. Exactly. But well. So look, like Ninja Trader has their way of doing it that I'm not going to say is necessarily better or worse than other ways. Like, it's not objectively better or worse, but I kind of prefer the trading fee way of doing it. personally. I think that mouse scroll wheel to zoom is better than to scroll back and forth. I think that NinjaTrader made that decision because from their perspective, you want to keep the scale of the chart the same if you're like scalping a chart or something like that. But you know, it's basically like the trading view indicator for NinjaTrader. It's kind of cool. What's the big deal with the Ninja label? Well, isn't it annoying to have that huge copyright down at the bottom left corner of your charts? This indicator allows you to change the color of it, and if you just change the color to transparent, it goes away. See here, let me pull it back. So if I come into the indicator here and go to the chart enhancer, I change the copyright color to ghost white, click apply. You see the 2023 NinjaTrader LLC pops up there. And see, because I have this chart, I've changed like the font size and everything like that. It ends up being huge and takes up a huge portion of the chart, right? Super annoying. I hate it. This thing right here, transparent. Okay. Bye-bye. So I don't think that I would spend $300 on it. That kind of sounded like they were willing to give it to me. But I don't know if that's, I mean, listen, I'm totally down with like doing deals with reputable vendors. I tend not to do it with indicator people though. And the other thing is that like, I don't know if it would be a good deal for them because I don't think very many people would notice it. You know, you noticed it. You noticed that the Priceline thing, but I think by and large, most users won't notice. So I don't think that they would be, you know, if they gave it to me for free, I don't know if they'd really be getting their money's worth. Especially since I'm kind of saying like, well, the features are cool, but I don't trade off of the charts, so they don't really help me. You know, like the countdown thing, who cares? I get it. If every bar is a potential opportunity for you to do an additional analysis and decide whether you want to buy or sell, the timer is super important, right? But I don't trade that way. Just switch to NinjaTrader, use it for now. You use Quant Tower. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I find platforms interesting. You know, people and overall, like the general YouTube audience is more interested in like the software and the hardware than they are the quant stuff, you know. So is what it is. Okay, so by the way, the 10-year kind of pulled back there. The 30-year did not. So that means that we did get a tick or two of flattening, and that leaves the actual 10-year yields right at 4.5. I am definitely seeing some flows come into the 5 and the 30, but not at all in the 10-year. So, not at all in ZN. So, I'm going to say I maybe have tepid evidence that the meta order long that I'm looking for is there. Or anything else? I guess I need to keep going back here. I didn't quite finish going back far enough on Twitter. Seems like Zero Hedge changed their algorithm here. And like my following page, my home page is not updating live. It's not showing me the most recent tweets. It's showing me ones from like an hour ago, and it's not continuing to. There we go. Maybe I just needed to wait a little bit. Okay, so now coming over to some of the websites. Yeah, Delta on ZB is many times more positive than on ZN, exactly. So the buying is there in the 30-year, but not in the 10. But look at that. Like, that's... See, the micro is responding to it still, though. So I kind of was thinking 4.5. I was thinking 4.5, but that's not. It looks like that opportunity is already passed. So do I still kind of like it there? No, because well, I don't know. There does seem to be a little bit of a hole of sorts at 14.5, but it looks like they're just gonna go. Yeah. Darn. I haven't had to deal with this one before in a while, where like I'm like looking to possibly take an order, and I would have to chase it. I would have to chase it really hard, huh? Well, that move there changed the cumulative delta considerably. Do you see that? 4,200 contracts at 16. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I would say that ZN is necessarily more important. What I would say is that we get more predictive signals from ZN because it has more liquidity. But, you know, as of late, it seems like the 30-year is where the trade has really been taking place. And so... yesterday you saw that extreme steepening, and this morning you're seeing a little bit of flattening. A little bit of flattening the other way. But it's not too much, so I'm slightly skeptical of it. That move up did kind of cross into some important kind of places where it's kind of like people are getting stopped out now. So I'm also kind of looking at this like, oh my gosh. Already 4.9, huh? Oop. I think I just missed the trade, man. I don't know if I can buy it. I don't know if I can take the trade there at like 4.9. This one's a little sneaky. I feel like I was definitely looking at seeing the pressure and thinking it was going to go long and everything. So like I was prepared. I was definitely seeing it, but like it went before I expected, didn't it? I was kind of like, I can wait a little bit. Maybe I'll get a better price. Not just went. Okay, so there's an iceberg at 16.5 as well. That gives me, so there was big There was big iceberging at 16. There's big iceberging at 16.5. So far, they're pushing through it. It's a couple of stacks in ZB. I think that suggests that we have a pretty strong trend coming through here, but that 16.5 could act like a magnet and kind of hold things back for a little bit. Okay, the micro did not respond to that downtick as much. Okay, so let's read this zero hedge story, since I'm not going to take the trade there. Oh, look, it came back. Huh. The micro did not come back as much. I don't think I'm getting a good price in the micro. Thanks to a large downward revision for July, preliminary August durable goods orders rose a marginable spot 2% month over month. Looking under the covers, we find more noise in this time series, with orders ex transports rising spot 4 month over month thanks to a big downward revision in July, which was revised from spot 4 to spot 1. Additionally, we note that the value of core capital goods orders, a proxy for investment in equipment that excludes aircraft and military hardware, soared 0.9% last month after a revised spot 4% decline in July. More capital good orders have been downwardly revised 5 of the last 6 months. Finally, as a reminder, this series is in nominal dollars, meaning it does not show you the inflation. Yeah, I think so. Jiwi says John Grady's textbook absorption and backticking setup. They absorbed it at 16 and 16.5. Kind of sat there and didn't do anything. And then backtick came back. So, you know, I always try and be careful about these sorts of things, because when I say something, I'm always thinking, if they're completely brand new and they don't know anything else, what are they going to think about what I just said, right? So I always kind of have to put the caveat. I would not take that as a predictive signal, because there's 2 ways that that thing plays out. The other way that it plays out is that the market orders just keep coming and they get pushed to new highs, and it's this wild trend, right? And they may yet come back and attack those highs. I have to say, even though they came back all the way to 15, the micro is not coming all the way back to 4.5 like it should. The micro still making us sell at a pretty bad price. And you can also see how they react every time that there's even like a little uptick at 15.5. So they're itching. They're itching that it could be continued long. So with all that, we move from what, negative 98 to negative 90. So about 8,000 net contracts on a sort of like a break of the regular session highs absorption pullback. Meanwhile, S&P 500 just kind of going sideways. Japanese yen not tracking with the treasuries at all. Oil kind of moderating as well. Hollywood screenwriters approved deal and month-long strike with studios. Okay. This was an interesting article I read. I don't know if we're going to talk about Trump rages at deranged New York judge's corporate death penalty decision. Social media was all uppity about that yesterday. I'm kind of coming to the point where I don't care, but it's like, I mean, it does matter. It's just not anything new, right? Continues to help Donald Trump because people look at it and they're like, seems like political prosecution. Yeah, I heard you mention oil. We're definitely keeping an eye on oil here because there's been a little bit of oil treasury correlation here. You know, the interesting thing is that the price target that I think Goldman Sachs posted. So to go back through like the evolution of the analysts on this, Goldman Sachs said that Brent could get to 100. So Brent is a little bit more expensive than Sweet Light. So 100 in Brent is more like 94 to 96 in Sweet Light. Okay. So let's just say that the target is 94. And we moved from 89 to 92.5 this morning. So they could get to Goldman's target in a day, possibly. You know, if they keep moving like this, it would be a day and they would be at their target. Now, the other thing, though, was that then I think it was... I don't think it was JP Morgan. I can't remember who it was now. But there was another big analyst like that came in and they were saying like 150. So when you come over and you watch oil, sometimes it just kind of seems like it's doing its own thing. But from everything that I can see, like sentiment-wise and everything on social media, there are a lot of people keeping an eye on oil. Still looking for my fidget toy. My kids stole my fidget toy. Okay, so there's the 30-year kind of coming back to... So that was kind of like a stop run. I think that I did the right thing by skipping that one. I guess we'll see how far back they get. There's a big order there at 13.5 now. Although that kind of seems like that there's been a little bit of a large bid below us like this whole time, so... Wow. Eric Waller's seen trouble ahead in the $1.7 trillion bank loan market. Defaults over the past 12 months are the highest since 2014. With not counting the COVID spike. 270 billion worth of loans, which is 16% of the market, is in concerned territory. Fitch says almost 62 billion could default by the end of 2023. That would be a problem, wouldn't it? Especially if they're not making money from the commercial real estate. In other words, those retail banks getting hit from both sides. And I should note that they've recently come back into the lows from around when the Silicon Valley Bank thing happened. So do we need to start monitoring closely individual bank stocks too? Okay, I was going to show you this. So here's an interesting article that they had. Here's what retail investors are most interested in buying, and this was just, they did a survey. What are they focused on buying? Well, they're least focused on buying commodities, which I think is kind of funny. And they're most interested in dividend investing. I'm not sure makes sense. Why dividend investing at this time? I guess everybody is in on this like passive income thing, right? Divs. What are you talking about, divs? Oh, dividends. I'm just not sure that I see dividend investing as being the best market in the current conditions, right? Like if I was running a hedge fund and I was trying to determine which stock sectors do I think are going to be up the most, I wouldn't be sitting there thinking it's going to be dividend investing stocks, you know? Artificial intelligence, sure. But notice that they're not as interested in inflation protection in commodities. So it seems like the consumer is not as concerned about inflation anymore. Now I'm wondering here, I'm still keeping an eye on this. The spread has been moving a little bit, and you're seeing the 30-year get smacked back a little bit harder that time. So is the steepener coming back? I'm thinking about this trade that I kind of felt like I missed. $10. Would I have actually gotten out at 449? I don't think I would. I think I'd be scratching it. Guess I should recenter this a little bit to try and track that. Oh, here's r/economics talking about the story we read the other day. Jamie Dimon says Americans are on an economic sugar high and he's urging clients to batten down the hatches and prepare for rates to hit 7%. That's not what he said. He did not say that the rates are going to hit 7%, but... Okay, so here's the thing. If you look at the average return on the S&P 500, and you take into account the effects of inflation, you get about 7%. So now that 7%, if interest rates were 7%, that wouldn't be real interest rates. Okay, but you can see how you're starting to get to numbers where like it starts to have really crazy impacts, right? Like what you if you get to the point where like interest rates are like 7 to 9% and real interest rates are 7%, who buys stocks? Who buys stocks in that situation, you know? Up a tick there. I'm not seeing it. You know what I'm seeing? I don't know if Uzi's there, but because he's probably looking at that. They went right to the ZN stop out line and pulled back almost immediately. They stopped him out and then pulled back almost immediately. Oh, you are there. But when they're doing that, that to me is more like a trader shenanigans, not a large persistent meta order I can ride, you know? And then it just makes me think of the strategy I back tested. I'm not so when I back tested it, I was like, whoa, because like it was one of those things where like, okay, if you go in and you set everything up and you do the things, and usually like the first time it's not that great, right? But like really simple setup, programmed it up immediately. I was getting a Sharpe ratio of 0.97 and a profit factor of 1.5. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. But of course I knew that like there's no that it's not going to last over a 5-year time period. And it was so bad, relatively speaking. It was basically like, and I don't know why I keep finding these. Maybe it's just because I am like curve fitting too much, but I'm finding all these strategies that's like maybe they worked well since the pandemic, but not before that. And then a couple of them that like, you know, in the last year they've done terrible. Quats aren't so. Hey, yeah, I saw you comment on a video the other day. Just fan you. So which video was the first video that you watched? Oh, you're from Turkey. That's interesting. You know, that you might, maybe you can have some insight. I don't know what relevant stuff we'd be talking about right now, but I have a hard time understanding a lot of the things that are going on with Turkey and all that, you know? You're going for the 16 in ZF? Ooh, yeah. No, man. So as I watch this, I'm kind of I'm definitely thinking like pullback, bull flag, we take it from like 15 higher. And you can see the big target up there in ZF. But I really don't like the way that trade played out. It was like somebody in ZN was stopping out, like the market maker stopped out, and then it just came back to where it was before the thing. And I don't know if like that I have some evidence of a meta order long, but I also have some evidence that this is just market maker shenanigans, you know? I'm leaning towards market maker shenanigans, but I really want to get in. Are they really 30% in Turkey? I don't know, man. It's always just been like little headlines here and there when they fired the central bank guy and all of this other stuff. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I don't get it. I can't understand being a political leader, like president of a country, and coming into something like monetary policy and saying, well, I think I know better on the monetary policy than these people that have like dedicated their life to doing that thing, you know? This is interest rates well. I have a hard time understanding things going on here as well. 6 months here, 6 months I spend in Germany. Yes, inflation is bad. I gotcha. See, I don't understand the ideology of Ed Rogan. I don't understand what he's doing because he's supposed to be an ally of the West, right? But he's also kind of an ally of Putin, and some wild things keep happening, and I just don't I don't understand what drives him. What is it that, why does he make the decisions that he does, you know? Sometimes you can never know. Come to Turkey, you'll see. Well, wouldn't mind going to see Istanbul. He's only allied with himself? Well, I kind of always thought it was just that, like, maybe he was a little naive in thinking that he can really be on both sides of the fence, you know? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too influenced by NATO propaganda to really see the truth. I do have to admit that when I'm watching things like this, what I see on the news about the Ukraine war. So if you really want to know what's going on with the Ukraine war, there's what is it called? So it's like the Foundation for the Study of War or something like that, and they have a daily report that's like a really long daily report too, by the way, and it gives you really good information about what's going on. But when ISW, yeah, and but anytime that I actually see like mainstream outlet reports on the Ukraine war, it's always like Ukrainians are kicking butt in Ukraine. Do you want to read more? You know, it feels like a Starship Troopers propaganda level stuff. Like, it's just, I don't trust it at all. I think the ISW has good information though. I also hate how like disjointed. So like with the Ukraine war, so like they kind of had a little bit of a breakthrough at the beginning of the week. Haven't heard anything about it since then. So does that mean that things just take time? Or does that mean that like the hole got plugged and the people that were kind of crowing about that particular development are just not saying anything now? Because that did happen. Like when Russia came in and pushed all the way down through the south, like that happened really, really quickly, and like people weren't really talking about it live when it happened. Okay, well, the treasuries have fallen quite a bit further back. They're now back to the VWAP for the session. And I am seeing, well, there was a lot of large transactions, relatively speaking, in the treasuries, at least relative to the rest of the action today. So the cumulative delta is very choppy. And while there was that large meta order long in ZB, you know, that kind of pulled back and they're just going flat now. So my read there kept me out of a bad trade, I think. Yeah. I think I stayed out of a bad trade. I think I'm getting a little antsy though. Like, I don't think we've taken a good trade since, oh, well, not a good trade, but just like a live trade since like last Thursday. We caught that one that we're kind of lucky on. So where are you at? I live in Utah. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. So in the desert. I always think about this, like, one of the things that I think is kind of cool is some of the like cyberpunkish like fashion that's taking off on social media. It's just interesting to see, to be able to see styles like that are super edgy and are more like what people are interested in rather than what sort of weird thing has some designer come up with, you know? But I have a big problem with it because I live in a desert and all of like the techwear is built for the rain, right? Techwear is built for people that live in Seattle, not, you know. But the problem is that according to everything that they keep telling us, the future will be hot. The future will be hot. So, I don't know, you tell me. So we're back to neutral territory, let's say. The reality of the battle space has changed dramatically. It is dictated by minefields predominantly. All battles are squad, platoon size, rarely a company attacks. Yeah. This I think is a really interesting point about the Ukraine war, because when this all happened, when Russia came and swept the bottom of the country and started putting up defensive stuff, started building trenches and mines and everything, everybody's like, nah, that's never going to work in an age of precision artillery and all this sort of stuff, right? But it was actually very effective for the Russians. It's been extremely difficult for Ukraine to push through that. They may yet make it. I don't know. I get a little anxious about it because, like, I am getting reports that there was a breakthrough of the second line, and the third line will be easier. But it seems like they're kind of taking a break or something. But there's like this whole government shutdown and everything coming, right? So, you know, I'm concerned that the West will give up on funding them like just before they are about to have a breakthrough. You know what I mean? Like that could totally happen. And it is definitely a thing where it's like the longer it goes on, because here's the thing. How do I put this delicately? Zelensky has done a lot of amazing things in terms of like rallying the West and being able to prevent Kiev from just being completely taken over and everything. And he's a very interesting political figure, but I wouldn't say he's perfect. I think that he is very much like he was a comedian, you know? I feel like he's very much like a regular guy, all of a sudden fighting a war, you know? And especially because of the part of the world that he's in and everything, there's always going to be a lot of waste, fraud, and corruption and so forth involved. And that has been a persistent problem in terms of like partnerships of this nature, right? Because you know, this a really great comparison here would be Vietnam, right? Well, one of the major reasons why we were not successful in Vietnam was because the leader of South Vietnam was a little crazy, and there was a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, I think that the good thing here that we had in Vietnam that we don't have here is that Zelensky still seems pretty popular among his people, right? In Vietnam, there was like factions in individual groups within the country that were very unhappy, right? And so that really added to the strain. Right now, it seems like people are very united behind Zelensky, but you know. So the issue that you've been having is like he's going around to like other countries, like he was over here in the United States and in Canada. They did this thing in Canada that's become such a big embarrassment that the Speaker of the House in Canada resigned. You know? So like, is he actually the right guy for the job per se? Not necessarily. Not from that perspective, because he's having a hard time keeping them together, you know? By the way, I'm just very sad that Octavius puked, because usually he catches them and is good. Now, this pullback, by the way, well, it seems to be accompanied by a pretty strong trend in the dollar upwards. I am seeing the Japanese yen start to do it. So now all of a sudden, it's like the trend has flipped super hard. It's not, the yield curve isn't changing with it. I would say it's a decent 8,000 net contracts decline in cumulative delta. Timing is a little suspicious because the S&P 500 is about to open in a minute. So that typically wouldn't necessarily be a good time for like go short on break of the low sort of a thing. Range until now. Okay, here we go. It's a little bit of selling into the open. Liquidity's not very good either, by the way. Okay, they're trying to dig it out. They're trying to dig it out. You know what else? Is oil was declining and then reversed and pushed up higher to make a new high of 92.6. 92.60, let's say. When this downtrend in the treasury started, but wow, they're moving too fast. I look away for a minute and they're 3 ticks higher. This is so frustrating because I want to come in and take a trade and take a winner, but that is not what I want to see, right? That's kind of dangerous. That's kind of dangerous activity to get involved in. They're moving 3 ticks on nothing. There was a lot of volume involved in that in ZN though. So it wasn't that they rose on nothing. It's just it happened very quickly and out of nowhere, was what we should say, right? Because he says yawn. And you know what? Dude, so like I got in bed at a good time, but then my youngest son woke up just as I was getting in bed. And my wife, she was sitting with him in bed, like didn't have the screen on or any of that. So I think she was doing it right. He just was not going to sleep. He was not going to sleep. He was like, more, saying all of the words because we get excited when he's, like let's talk and do some things. No, it's bedtime. I think I still got a pretty good night's rest though. Usually the thing that tells me that I got a good night's rest is that I wake up before my alarm. So it's been blowing me away how important good sleep has become. Yeah. I was having a little bit of trouble like a week or so ago. Like every day I was starting to feel like I was having headaches and feeling fuzzy. And so I was starting to wonder, okay, is this like, did I not eat enough? And then so I'd go and eat something and it doesn't seem to do it. So then I'm like, am I like having blood sugar problems? Maybe like maybe insulin resistance could kind of create those sorts of symptoms too. But then I just got really good sleep for a few days and it kind of decreased. So I think sometimes I won't get as much sleep as I think I am, and I don't realize it because, I take stimulant medications in the morning, so I don't, I think that I'm waking up and I'm active and I'm just fine. Yeah, this does not look like my market, guys. They're gonna do something huge here, huh? Just to spite me. They're shuffling around here. There is some changes in the yield curve, but it's whipsawing. So something's going on. I suppose it could just be whipsawing from the S&P 500 opening up, right? Yeah, the delta on CN is like 3 mountains. It's really weird, right? Because you have a number of points where there was a really large buy followed almost immediately by a large sell, and it's done that multiple times. But that is indicative of a neutral market, essentially. I shouldn't call it a neutral market, but that is indicative of a market where the market makers and the traders are in control, and there is not some big guy trying to push it one way. I look at yesterday, because yesterday they did end up making like another push afterwards. So I don't know if that was just a retracement of the overnight move or what, but I mean, there was definitely volume behind it. It was pretty consistent the whole day, So yesterday there was something. Today I don't. What initially looked like a strong meta order to the long side has kind of fizzled out. And although we've come to the other side of the range, I can't say very confidently that it's a meta order short. It just looks like market maker shenanigans. Seen some people on Twitter talking about the Trump case. Whoa, wait, what? DC's National Cathedral had stained glass windows honoring Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson? But wait, they replaced them with a BLM. Well, I don't know what is it that they replaced it with? I can't see. Oh yeah, they replaced it with what? That's not appropriate for a church. You know what? But what they had in there originally is not appropriate for them. Well, it's yeah. Okay. Weird. That's weird, but whatever. Yes, the Senate's deal to avert a government shutdown raises an awkward question for House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Does he accept its offer now or later? I had seen that light last night and kind of forgotten about it. And let's come in and see. Is this the smoking gun of Biden's Chinese cash for influence deals? No, probably not. They're talking about, so there's a story yesterday that there were wires from China to And the address that they put was basically Biden's home where, you know, they had all of the documents that got confiscated. So, some people are saying, oh, is that the smoking gun that Biden was paid? Probably not, because it was probably still Hunter Biden that was receiving it. But I wish. Yeah, see, I don't see, you know, I'm not seeing anything on the conservative blogs about that deal. Wow, 2 ticks down now. This still looks like the dollar, though. Yes, it does. Japanese yen is kind of sinking here. So I kind of have to wonder if we've reached the lows here, will it be the same thing that's been happening lately, which is like you do get a little bit of a stop run? Because again, I'm not seeing like the signs of a really strong meta order coming through here as it's doing this. We are seeing the S&P 500 start to fall out as this is happening. Let's zoom in on that a little bit, because it's starting to get a little bit ugly over there. Well, let's come to Politico and see if we can find any information about that. Let's see here. Trump wants to freeze the election at halftime. Yeah. "2024 field braces for a devastating fall with dropouts on the horizon." Yes. There are some candidates that if they don't get, you know, a good moment. Oh, there's a debate today. It's Wednesday, huh? Yeah, Dow is dragging down the S&P. Well, I said I think that the play is still short ES. I think it's to at least 4,300. Anyways, the Biden campaign now wants to go viral. Okay, have fun with that. You think equities are imminent for? You mean like a little bit larger of a decline in the indexes? It's pretty. I think it's a little precarious here in ES, because something that you got to keep in mind is that there are a lot of things that in the flows for ES that suggests down for the next few weeks to month. Okay, but the hedge funds were like all ahead of it, so. It would not take very much to flip it long and cause all those guys to puke, you know, and cause a short covering rally. 4307 was support yesterday. So my recollection was that the gamma kind of had us positive gamma till about 4300. So below 4300, things might be different. Okay, here's a story that might tell us what we need to know. Bipartisan Senate spending bill released Tuesday is a direct confrontation with the House GOP that risks raising the already high prospects of a government shutdown. Through the Senate bill Though the Senate bill shortchanges President Joe Biden's request for Ukraine and disaster aid, it delivers far more robust funding for both priorities than some senators had contemplated just 24 hours earlier. It contains none of the spending cuts sought by conservatives and funds the government through November 17th at current levels, all things that House Republicans have declined to endorse. Yeah, well, if it's only through November 17th, I don't think that that's a very good deal. The proposal also offers nothing to Speaker Kevin McCarthy on border policy, an issue that he's now demanding must be at the center of any government funding bill to avoid a shutdown on October 1st. But senators in both parties said the chamber needs to make a move and fast given the dysfunction of the House. Seems to change every hour, if not by the minute in the House, so I don't think they know what they can do at this point, but we need to know what we can do, and that is to send over a bill and see what the Speaker can do with it. Gotcha. Okay, so that bill is probably not going to pass. Sorry, did they break? No. Okay, overnight lows, 7.5. Gotcha. But 09 was a lower low, only a few contracts there so far. And again, I think the evidence still points to this being a currency-driven move. I should be more excited to see a debate tonight, but I'm becoming more and more, or rather less and less optimistic about any Republican challenger's opportunity to overtake him. Well, the issue on this trade is that the flows don't seem to be giving me any kind of signal that this would continue. But this move is being driven by the currencies. So I can only guess as to why the Japanese yen is declining here and how far it will go. You know, on one side of it, this would be an interesting location for it to, you know, absorb and bounce back up. but you know, that would necessitate the Japanese yen to stop driving. Starting to see Bitcoin reverse a little bit here now, though. Gold is getting hammered. Wow. Are they going to touch 1900 today in gold? Sure looks like it. I don't know. This is like what, a 3... Yeah, from 9 to 20. 3 to 4 basis point range. That just seems to me like a lot for them to move, for there to be almost no change in cumulative delta in the 10-year, you know? It's a very odd market today. Especially it being a Wednesday and everything. Like, I thought that we would get more of a clear trend here. Wow. This is the highest level of the dollar against the yen since 2022. Okay, so here's the other thing. If it's just the dollar yen that's pushing this, then we need to keep an eye out for BOJ intervention, right? Hey, thanks for stopping by, Kumquats. So the first thing is that if I start seeing heavy absorption down here, I'm going to be a little, Yeah, thanks for following, Kumquats. Oh, the franc. Yeah, so the Swiss franc has been getting hammered today, yeah. It's been not pretty. Okay, they touched 08.5 again. Oh, not again. That was the first time. Oh, you trade in DAX? Oh, that makes sense. You're in Europe. Yeah. So did you see that when they ticked down? When they ticked back up, there was a pretty strong bid there. It is ticking as it does it. Okay, so now ZF is touching its lows. Overnight lows. ZN still has a tick or two. So we had a tepid sign in, but it didn't hold, right? So a decent amount is traded down here. You got 6,000 at 8.5, 13,000 at 09. So far, it's not letting up. I'm not seeing like hard absorption per se. I think I'm gonna jump out on the ledge here a little bit. Well, the dollar did kind of turn, or you are seeing a blue candle in the Japanese yen. Again, the order flow and the treasuries aren't giving us a whole lot of hints. I feel like that maybe the level 2 is, though, because when they tick up, the bids are more solid. You're not really seeing offers follow it yet at this time. So like if we tick down 587 on offer, you're not seeing it tick down and there's like 2,000, right? Going for a reversal here is super risky though. So I'm kind of doing something a little illogical and irrational here, because the trade that I'm looking for is Bank of Japan coming in. I think that what decided to get me into that in the first place, though, didn't hold for very long. So it may make sense for me to just puke this here. Hey, Ostrats, where you been? It just doesn't seem like they're going along with it. Well, now those big orders at 09 and 09 half, that's a little interesting. Do they hit into that? 5-year definitely turned there quickly. We'll see. Is it not on Mac? It's a Java platform. I think it should work on Mac. So, by the way, about 1942 has gone into that 08 half, and there's still 1,000 on bids. So that's actually really positive. Although there's still a large offer there. If that large offers were to cancel or they were to push through them, then that could definitely lead to the sort of thing that I'm looking for to see a good reversal, right? Is it really C#? I thought for sure it was Java. Oh, install for Visual Studio. You're right, it is C#. You had a NinjaTrader session on pivots and Fibonacci program. Not sure where to find. Well, I wouldn't. Like, finding a past stream would be super hard for even me to do. But I think I have a video about price action. I think I talk about that a little bit. You just use the zigzag indicator in NinjaTrader, but just never look at the most recent pivot, because that can redraw. Okay, so they have tried to eat through the offer at 09, and they did not pull. So with 48.69, iceberg absorbing at 09. So the thing I'm looking for at the moment is possible Bank of Japan intervention. So this is a hyper speculative trade. I was kind of doing it because I was seeing some of those upticks in the bids were a little bit stronger. Yeah, the BOJ, Bank of Japan. Nope. Okay, well, somebody let me out there really quickly, so that kind of makes me question, but I think that seeing the way that played out is not what I would want to see for reversals, so. So there was an iceberg at 09. They couldn't get through it. 4,000 sold at 08 half, and they take 08 very easily. So I puked there. Very good job. I avoided some pain there for sure. See that size at 09 half is still there. And look, they're trading into 08 and it's still happening. So I wouldn't see it on the cumulative delta yet, but there is some signs that there's a large meta order selling here, right? He waits to let everybody buy that's willing to buy it there, and then he takes what's on the bid. You gotta be careful because I'm still seeing the Japanese yen going sideways. So the reversal trade is maybe still in the cards. Do you know any server providers? Server providers for what? I think if you want like a trading server, there's Speedy servers that Futures.io has a partnership with them. They're co-located and everything. Okay. So absorption at 07 half. I would say pretty major absorption at 07 half, in fact. Speedy. S-P-E-E-D-Y. Okay. It's not cheap. But I mean, if you wanted, that's for like, if you want to do algorithmic trading and you want to be fast, that's what you do. So while we are getting some signs of like absorption and everything, they haven't really been able to meaningfully tick back up. And there's now 5,000 at 09 half. So see, it's like they're not selling it more, but like nobody's willing to buy 08. Well, yeah, but Hesner is not co-located at the CME exchange, right? Well, it looks like they took 07.5 without much fanfare that time, and they're already eating into 07. Looks like we might have a little bit further to go again. Could have taken the exact opposite trade that I did, and it would have been a good trade. Okay, wow. You've been coding since 7 in assembly? Sure you have. This is very interesting. Okay, so 4,006 half uptick. Doesn't hold. Python was dodgy. Well, if you want to get into the machine learning stuff, it's a lot easier to do it in Python. I don't think that I should be trying to look for the reversal trade here anymore, but like... that was some pretty big orders that just came through there, right? That's overall net 15K down on this down leg, though. And no change in the yield curve, so they kind of all went together. Yeah, that would have been bad. If I had held on to that, I'd be down $20 now. So the yield like really moved there. I'm still not getting like the... yeah, I don't know. So like the next big major spot that I can kind of see, I guess there is a little bit of an odd bit of liquidity there at 03. Well, at 108, I would expect there to be some support at 108. So far, it doesn't seem like it's letting up. I don't know if they're going to go that far down, though. It's a little interesting to see this going again, that it's like it's the dollar that's driving it, right? Because the normal correlation that you'd see is when the S&P 500 turns extremely bearish, that you see buying in the treasuries, and that's not happening at all. There doesn't seem to be that kind of support in the flows for that. I mean... the bids aren't just jumping out of the way. There's been some pretty big transactions in here. But the sellers just clobbered them. So if this is what I think it was, which is you've got some sort of a stop out, because it just like it accelerated so fast, right? We shouldn't be expecting an immediate reversal for it. It'll probably kind of languish there a little bit and then reverse. Because the opposing meta order wouldn't happen. Like if So let's say that you were a meta order and you wanted to buy, right? Well, you just collided there. You collided there. So you're probably filled at a really good low price. There might not be enough to just, you know, for it to be continuing pushing and try and retrace this. So it probably more settles here and you see a lot of volume trade at like around 04.5 first. I tell you what, if they take another leg lower, then I'm really going to be surprised. Because that last little bit was awfully steep. I don't know, looking back on it, like the reversal trade that I took, even though it was a loser, I think I can still grade that as an A for a loser because I got an okay spot. There actually was a good possibility of a flipping there. And I was able to get out really well. So I think my execution of that, even though it was the wrong trade, was pretty good. Yeah, so now 5K at 04.5, man. I mean, that is kind of what I've been looking for. But look, 7K goes off. Is there more? Lots of level 2 activity, but no orders coming through. How much time do we got left? 45 minutes? We still got 15 points to 4,300 in the E-mini, so... Turn that on for a second and check what's going on. And there it's another. Ooh, look at that big order again, following it down. 5K at 04. But it pulls in the uptick. 3K. Okay. So, you know, this is like a good example of like what we were talking about at the top, where it was like, well, yeah, absorption and backtick, but down here it's doing the opposite, right? Absorption and they plow through it. How do you know which one it's going to be? Sometimes context can kind of tell you that there's a large meta order, right? Look, there's another basis point though. There's the Japanese yen pushes lower. I'm starting to wonder. Hey, Ostrats, thank you. I'm starting to wonder, is because this is starting to get a little scary, don't you think? It's like they're just making a beeline for 108 even. And they're just slicing right through up basically anything that stands in the way. Like, subscribe. Yeah, if you want, I guess. I've honestly kind of stopped caring. Feel like I've done what I wanted to do, and I'm tired of trying to appease algorithms. So I am seeing maybe a little bit of a shift. Seems like they're so I am seeing the hole at 04 much more clearly there at 04 than I have the other prices coming down. Some shoving though. Again, seems like the dollar and the Japanese yen are the drivers here. So, who's to say what the Japanese yen will continue to do or not do? I'm definitely noticing. Damn. I'm definitely noticing that the oh, what's this in the ES? Dollars flipping. Something just happened, I think. Something just changed. So I just heard over the News Squawka story. I don't think that that's what's moving them, but it was an announcement of some sort of a conference with European Union over things like steel tariffs and stuff. You see, the ES is acting like there's news. And the dollar definitely shifted. So this is not necessarily the Bank of Japan intervention that I was looking for, but something happened. So There is still the liquidity at 05 half, so that's kind of our next key like test to see how the liquidity reacts and if they're able to eat through that. CL busting up. I was still kind of let's not call it busting up. It's just kind of been a steady uptrend through the session, hasn't it? They're now even 10 cents higher at 92.70. Okay, so seeing some iceberging at 04 half is not necessarily a good sign. You know, Champagne, I'm not 100% sure. In all honesty, I'm not 100% sure. Because at this current time, it looks like it's a currency-driven move. Iceberg both sides. Okay. 5K to go bid. Reasonable bid. 05 pulse. Yes, that's good. That's real good. Because there was like, what, 4,000 there at one point, and they pull all the way to 1,500 when it actually goes offer. Yeah. And big bid at 04. That looks promising to me. Bitcoin, wowzer. Bitcoin has just given up all of its gains for the session, essentially. And there was a really, really quick dive there. Binance announced they are selling its Russian business to Comex. That was 4 hours ago, though. Okay, well, so we saw a big shift in the S&P 500. The dollar came off of its push. Treasuries did reverse a little bit, but it's kind of becoming lackluster. I think that we got a couple of good signs in there, but we haven't like gotten an uptick at 05, for instance. If we were to start eating into this 05 right now, there's a possibility that we could run back across this range to like the 08 area very quickly because the liquidity is probably not recovered yet. I kind of wish I knew what drove that flip there, though, you know? Okay, so now they are trading into 05. It's not bid yet, but... Okay, not enough. And signs of synthetic iceberg there. So it's a 7-11 to bid. Does absorb a hit though. There you go. There you go. Oh, come on. This up over here. Oh, geez. I hate it when, I take my eye off for like a second and there's a tick, Like, it shifts so quickly. Oh, we got oil inventories. Yes, yes. It's a draw on the forecast. But actually, some of them were built. So crude oil was a pretty big draw, but gasoline inventories is much higher than expected. There was some movement there in the treasuries. Looking for some big sellers tomorrow and Friday? Why tomorrow and Friday? Still seeing some pretty big collisions in this area. By the way, 44,000 traded at 04.5. That's pretty massive, right? 44,000 at a price, that's a lot. Financial calendar? Oh, right. Well, we do have the end of the month, huh? Okay. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if anybody does. Well, I mean, I know what's happening, but I don't know why. The dollar is getting crazy strong here, is what's happening. Uzi says, I'm just watching the silly. I find it curious that you're not as... I mean, I would have thought that you would have been short from the high. I mean, that would have been kind of similar move to what you've been making. Came into this context same as you didn't. Yeah. It's kind of like, well, I mean, there's no way we could, right? Because if it's a currency driven move and we're primarily watching the flows, then we're not going to be able to see the currency. That's the frustrating thing is like, okay, I don't like trading Forex. I don't think that Forex is a very good game because you can't really see the flows. And so you just kind of get screwed. But then, so you come over to futures and then you end up being a currency trader anyways, you know? Well, I tell you what, man. There has been buying here in the 10-year. There has been support. They're having a really hard time holding it, though, still. 2% move in oil on the day. Yep, 2.35 gain on the day. It really is a big move. It's really odd. Was there some piece of news or something that I missed? Because I'm not quite sure I understand why oil is up $3 all of a sudden. Much faster than anticipated. Okay, here's E-mini. Trying to dig something out. It's trying so hard. I don't know if they can make it. Diesel export ban in Russia? Okay, maybe. I do recall seeing that headline, I think. Nope. What the heck? Yeah, that one doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but okay. They kind of went and dipped back to the lows and almost immediately bounced back here. It seems like my micro moved a little bit more than my treasury did, though. Steepening again, too, by the way. That, not the rest of it, but that impulse looked like there was steepening on that impulse. Oof, oof. I guess they're not done. Because that right there. That is some pretty hard pressure on the lows. That was only to 50 though, 5 though, right? Yeah. So when it came back there, I kind of thought about scratching it, and it just, I think that if it had just stayed there that I would have, but it'll pop now that you close. Yeah, right. Well, now that I'm trying to get myself more short. Just think about this. Every tick down, the more money I make on my swing short. So And where did I puke at? 5-1. I think that second trade was a C. I don't know. This is pretty excessive move overall though. Will I see anything curious if I look at it from like a volume profile perspective? Well, yesterday's lows was 108 even. So I suppose there's one way of looking at this could be that this is like a this could be a higher low. But I'd say that the flows looked much more aggressive this morning than it was yesterday. No, this big one here is a sim trade swing. And it looks like these additional contracts. I forgot that I still had that on there because it wasn't showing it to me. Jeez. There's EAS turning back down now. We need to zoom out a little bit. The dollar does seem to have eased, doesn't it? It's doing a head and shoulders sort of a thing, which doesn't mean anything, but just to say that yeah, it's been within a range here now for the last like 30 minutes, even though the treasuries in the last like 30 minutes continued lower. And the yen continued lower. Well, I think the ultimate trade that I was trying to make was that the Bank of Japan would come in here, and doesn't look like that happened, right? Euro trade looks tempting. Yeah, it does. Weakening yen. Yeah. Well, it was definitely the currencies that moved us. Like look at the way this happened in CN. We keep seeing this. Okay. So like, yeah, they're declining. all through here, move. But look at the delta, like nothing, until we got well to like stop out zones. Then all of a sudden, people were stopping out. You see the cumulative delta come down, but very briefly, and then it almost immediately comes back. So that's like the treasuries are this is just traders getting caught and puking because of the move in the Japanese yen. Was not being driven by flows over here very much at all. And there was quite a lot of massive absorption up in here too. So one could potentially have positioned themselves long through here. Like there could be hedge funds and whatnot saying we want to buy around this 108 area. They certainly could have been doing, I mean, good grief, 46,000, 38,000, 26,000. Like a lot of contracts changed hands in this area. It's just the pressure still seems to be to the downside because the yen is still under pressure. How would yen make weak treasuries? Okay, so basically a lot of funds. So the Japanese government buys a lot of treasuries themselves, and then a lot of the pension funds and so forth come over and buy the treasuries. So the stronger the Japanese yen is, the more money there essentially is for these guys to come and buy treasuries. So weaker yen tends to mean weaker treasuries and vice versa. And the correlation is very, very strong. Now, when they intervene, we've kind of seen it play out a couple of different ways, but when they intervene, it's usually they intervene in the yen directly. And sometimes you see at other times where they're selling their treasuries to fund that intervention, which kind of defeats the purpose, but that's what we've seen. Kind of looking like it'd be very difficult for me to get filled at 03. Staring on the news clock, them reminding us about oil. They touched 93 there. Bitcoin still extending its losses. I wonder if the Bitcoin thing has anything to do with some of these things that I read about finance, like they're selling off one of their things to a Russian exchange. Let's see here. Mohammed El Elrian, the dollar appreciates further as this morning's fall in government bond yields is reversed and oil prices go up more, now by some 2% on the day. Okay, now you're getting a decent offer, so maybe I do get a fill over here. I don't think, by the way, even if I was not so close to my time, I don't think that I should be taking another trade, because the hero trade, you would want to do it while that liquidity was still kind of like sketchy, right? Well, it's been at least 30 minutes. So another 15 minutes and then you definitely don't have the situation anymore. That doesn't mean that they can't reverse. It's just that, like, if I was going to intervene, I would want to do it when the liquidity there was still weak. So it's the most likely scenario that we get is that it just kind of settles here. Excuse me. Oh, I hate how it calculates things sometimes. So, like, my average position really shouldn't be from 03, but it's doing it, like, first in, first out, so... Whatever. I guess I'm glad I kept that swing on, though, right? Right? Is E-mini gonna break new lows? It's so close. You guys ever seen that that video of the turtle that's like humping something? I forget what it is. There was some stops on that push to the lows, by the way. Jeez. I'm looking over here like, okay, so should I have taken 455? Maybe. It's not done. It's not done. This is 5 ticks there, right? Oh yeah, oil going even further now, 93.4. Well, if oil keeps pushing like this, then the treasuries are probably could get pushed further. Yeah, because this move looks more correlated to oil than it does to the Japanese yen. Maybe I should just be playing this rates higher because of oil, man. Because that seems like that's the popular trade right now, and that one's probably going to continue until it gets like wildly insane. We still got 108 though. There's still 108. That would be crazy if we got there in the next 3 minutes before I have to shut the stream down. Or that we got there today at the P. These people. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. As president, I will alleviate housing costs by making federally backed 3% mortgages available to millions of homebuyers. Are you a fucking moron? We have a housing crisis because there's not enough homes. Hey guys, I know. Let's give people loans so that it's easier for them to buy those few homes that are left. You were too I knew that there was something about that guy that I was kind of like, I don't know. He seems a little crazy. That's what I needed. That's the comment that I needed to be like, yep, he's an idiot. He's an Send him to China. He can help them. Dude, that is such an insightful comment, because it really is. Like, China has the exact opposite problem, right? They built all of these houses and nobody wants to buy them. So like giving people cheap loans and everything to help them go and buy houses would totally be great in China. Potentially. It could potentially be great in China. Oh man. These politicians sometimes, man. Where do they... Here's the problem that I have is I've always felt like I'm not very good at understanding what other people know and don't know. You know, like to me, it's horrifying, absolutely horrifying that most millennials are not contributing to their 401k. I've been contributing to my 401k since I was like 19. My parents always said you always pay your 401k first. Don't get a nicer house or anything until you're getting that match. If you can't afford it now, you're definitely not going to be able to afford it in 30 to 60 years with the inflation and everything. Okay, so you've got to save it away. You've got to save it away. And most millennials don't do it. How do people not know this? And so then we come into like the basics of supply and demand, like just the basics of capitalism and how our economy works. And you get these idiots. Oh, hey, we have a housing crisis because there's not enough housing supply. I know. Let's make it easier for people to buy things. Oh, how are these so stupid? Is it intentional? Is he really that economically illiterate? Or is this intentional? Like, he says that because he knows there's a certain group of people out there that will love it, even though he knows that it's dumb and he has no intention of doing it. Like, it's just manipulation. I can't tell. Because I just can't tell, like, what should this guy know or not know? I would think that if you were running for president, you would know that stuff. Maybe he's trolling. I don't know. Probably something to do with them having to have some votes, yeah. I just find it so incredibly disappointing that Western leaders are so economically illiterate. Or maybe it's too dumb, it's genius. It really is one of those distribution sorts of things where you've got these people on, one side over here that are like, give money, and then you got these people over here that have these really super complicated policies about what they're going to do about housing in the different areas and zoning. And then you got the people in the middle that are like, hey, just build more houses. You didn't expect it to be another short day? I mean, I don't feel bad about taking those two shorts in the micros and losing about $12. They were small tepid trades, and I was doing something super hyper speculative, which was speculating that the Bank of Japan would step in and reverse it. And I saw maybe a little bit of signs that it was happening. Okay, I still got this swing position short, so I'm still getting like that larger picture correct. Although, when you take that off is of paramount importance to me now, because I really want to know that. I think that's like a key question, is how to manage the exit, because I've had swings that have come all the way back on me before. Okay, over here on E-mini, I've been sitting here like, dude, I need to trade MES again, because I 100% called this to a T. I was just said, you sell it till 4,300. That was That was 34 points. That's like what? That's like $150 or something? That's not... So, Jiwi, the Bank of Japan doesn't do things covertly. They always announce their moves. Well, yes and no. So the thing is that they did kind of announce their move yesterday. They said, we are carefully monitoring currency developments. That's why we had the big move up in the overnight yesterday. And that's also why I kind of thought that when they came down into this area that they would maybe start to try and intervene. But they didn't. Not yet. Maybe there's a point at which they do. And we've seen it play out like this, by the way, too. On at least, it's been a while. It's been a while. When was that? Like, that was like last... Was that February or was that last year? When we had like the big interventions. There was one where we got like $50 off of it or something. Well, I don't think that I would go back to MES, but right now I have more edge in MES than the Treasuries, yes. At least until it touches 4,300. So over here in the Treasuries, I'm frustrated because, I mean, it's clearly going one way, but I don't understand why it's doing what it's doing. Why is the dollar moving like this? Why did the dollar rise so much? Treasuries are still selling even though the dollar has kind of stabilized. Oil's going wild crazy. When was the... with oil, case in point, with oil, we were at like what, 192.60 about when the oil inventories numbers came out. It was a draw, so we're like, oh, okay. That should go up. It kind of went up a little bit and then didn't go anywhere, and so I kind of like, forgot about it, and then 30 minutes later it spikes to new highs like crazy town. What's with that? Is that a normal thing, oil traders? It is frustrating because in all honesty, I should just be going long rates in the treasuries here, and I could have made $50 potentially. Because if I had the point at which, I could have said, let's go long. Because I remember when it was at 4.5 thinking about doing trades, although I think it might have been a short trade. I digress. I just kind of watched it happen. Because it's not happening the way that I want it to happen. Sometimes I'm way too specific, right? Like, that keeps me out of bad trades, for sure. But there's a lot of really good runners that I missed too because of that. And this is where it's like, I'm pretty happy with my trading overall, just because it was like, we need to get to a spot where like we're trading break even, mildly paying for costs and stuff, and we have done that, and now it's just like I can see where I've got to, these ones that I've got to get in order to get to that next level, and I always miss them. I always sit on the sidelines when they happen, and it's very frustrating. And I think I'm doing the right thing when that happens, but because I don't know why it's falling. But try and think of it like a woman. Well, yeah, but then you get this thing where it's like, as soon as you go short, it reverses there, right? I have to have something that tells me that it's going to continue, right? I suppose in this particular situation, though, I could have said, well, hey, I don't really see any big reason for it to stop before 108 even, right? Don't piss it off. It's okay. I didn't incur the wrath today, right? It was just a small little loss, and that was just kind of like me waiting my feet in after having not traded a live trade for like a week. So and getting used to this new flow, because it is different now that it's more liquid and we're having bigger transactions and stuff happening, right? It used to be that you'd see like 3,000 lots absorbed and it would like, swing back the other way. There was some trades like that only a few weeks ago, right? Now there's a lot more liquidity, so. All right. Today's title: oil and rates soar higher. I'm concerned about, this whole time. It's so funny because I've been talking about this since May. That is like, well, September, October tends to not be too pretty. So far, it is playing out exactly as I have foreseen. Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen. That doesn't mean that it's going to go any further, though. This could just be, as soon as I think I'm right, and then it changes, right? That's usually what happens. So we'll find out tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.